Okay, death by meritocracy. All right, so let's go. Okay, so if you from this graph, what you can see is this. In the year 1875, the best universities in the world were actually not in America. They were in Germany. Germany was producing the most Nobel Prize winners. Second was France, followed by the UK, okay? And America was non-existent. But because of its investments in research universities, it started to move up. And then it won World War II, so now it can import all these German scientists. And that's why it dominates today. So the best universities in the world are now in America, Harvard, Yale, and Princeton. Okay? Now, as each university gets better and better, they're letting more students, okay? And as you can see, more and more American students are now going to college. Before, in 1940, it was only about 5% of all males who went to university. Today, it's almost, it's 35% basically, okay? So that's a huge step. And you would think that with the increase in college graduates, America would become a much more equal society, right? Well, the opposite has happened, okay? America has become a much more unequal society. This is something called the Gini coefficient, which measures inequality. And as you can see, these past 20 years, it's gone way up. It's among the highest in the world, meaning America right now is one of the most unequal societies in the world, even though over a third of its young people go and graduate from college. This is a graph of social mobility, okay? So the graph, this number shows you if the number of people who are doing better than their parents. As you can see in the year 1940, most people are doing better than their parents. But over time, it's no one's doing better than their parents, okay? So your generation, you will not do better than your parents, most of you, okay? Income inequality has gone way up in the United States. The top 1% control most of the wealth in the United States, as you can see from this map, okay? So even though America has become wealthier, it's actually going to just the 1%. At the same time, universities are becoming much more expensive, okay? So this is leading to student debt. You can see how student loans has gone way up. So in America, student debt is the only type of debt that you can never ever get rid of. You can't declare bankruptcy. This debt cannot be gotten rid of. Okay, when you die, it passes on to your children. Okay, so this is a terrible situation for young people in America. This is actually a more stark graph where tuition has gone way up, but wages have stayed pretty stagnant. Okay? And it's leading to depression among teenagers. Okay? And also, the thing about this graph is the middle class and wealthy students are much more likely to be depressed and identify as depressed than poor students. All right? So this is leading to a crisis in America. So what has happened? Well, you had two individuals who created the meritocracy. The first is named James B. Conant, and he was president of Harvard for a couple of decades, and he was a person who brought in the SAT in order to identify scholarship students. And he made Harvard into the best research university in America. Okay? And he was determined to make Harvard into the best university in the world, as well as an institution of power in America, meaning that it would now decide who wins and who loses in America. The man who would help him is named Harry Chauncey. He was dean of Harvard, who was in charge of the scholarship program. Then he got a new job at a new organization called ETS. You know ETS because it's Education Testing Services. They're the ones responsible for the SAT, the TOEFL, the AP, the GRE, okay? So these two together create the modern meritocracy. And as you can imagine, because they're both from Harvard, the entire system is set up to benefit Harvard. Okay? And guess what, guys? It worked, okay? So in the year 1940, 90% of applicants to Harvard got accepted. Now it's gone way down to 5%, okay? Stanford is even lower, okay? So now it's so hard to get into Harvard. At the same time, look at the cash of Harvard, okay? This is called the endowment. The amount of money they have at Harvard is just ridiculous. They have more money than most countries in the world. Right now, their endowment is about $40 billion. Okay? And it's just the past 30, 40 years. The success of the Harvard alumni is just incredible. The most billionaires in America, Harvard graduates more billionaires than any other place, okay? 127 billionaires in 2024. Second is Stanford, all right? No one else comes close. But not only that, but it's also anyone with over $100 million. Most of them graduate from Harvard, okay? 7% of all, 7% of all people in America who have over $100 million in net worth graduate from Harvard, okay? Then you have MIT, Stanford, Pennsylvania, Columbia, Yale, Cornell, Princeton. Guess what, guys? Ivy League plus MIT. Okay? Okay, $30 million. Still Harvard is number one, okay? All right? So their graduates are the most successful in America. Okay? But it's not just rich people. It's everyone in the American elite. Okay? Most of them are graduates of the elite universities. Okay? So this is an article in Nature, and they looked at all the elite in America. And what they discovered is most of them went to certain schools, the elite universities, and this is what's causing a lot of political conflict in America today. All right, so let's just look at what they found. The red is Harvard graduates, okay? The green are Harvard plus Ivy League. And as you can see, Harvard is everywhere. Even among generals, admirals, there's Harvard people, okay? They dominate in terms of philosophers and professors, but they're everywhere. Even Pulitzer Prize winners, billionaires, New York Times bestselling authors, Fortune 500 CEOs, federal judges, senators, okay? They're everywhere. And that's the power of Harvard. This is a portion of Harvard graduates compared with the general population. This is the portion of Harvard graduates compared with the elite, okay? You see the contrast. So Harvard and Ivy League dominate America today. Okay? Now, what's amazing is Harvard people don't know they dominate Harvard. They don't know they're elite. So they did a survey, and so they asked people in these elite organizations, how many people do you think in this organization went to Harvard and other elite universities? So the red is the actual number, the blue is the estimate. So Harvard, Ivy League, don't even know they dominate America. Okay? And you ask them like, no, it's conspiracy theory. No, you're spreading conspiracy theories. We're just average people. There's no way Harvard controls America. All right? Now, as I mentioned, at Harvard, just going to Harvard is not enough. You have to join the elite social clubs, the social secret societies. So at Harvard, there's a place called, at Harvard, everyone wants to join the porcelain club, okay? At Princeton, it's the Ivy Club. Okay? These are secret societies. Oh, they're not really secret, but they're senior societies, okay? They're clubs that everyone wants to join. At Yale, it's Skull and Bones. Okay? Skull and Bones is the most famous college secret society. They're not that secret because they like to brag that they're Skull and Bones. They're so powerful that they produce a lot of presidents, a lot of rich people, okay? 2004, okay? George W. Bush versus John Kerry. Guess what, guys? John Kerry's the Democratic nominee, George Bush is Republican nominee, right? They're both Skull and Bones. They're both Yale Skull and Bones. Okay? So it's a rigged game. Or Barack Obama, okay? Barack Obama, Columbia, went to Harvard Law School, but he promised hope and change. he told people in 2008 that the game is rigged against them, that he would be their champion, that he would make America more fair. Okay? And he won. Why? Because, so this is his book, Dreams My Father. It was a New York Times bestseller. It basically launched his political career. He won because in 2008, the US economy collapsed. Why? Because the US banks, the US political system was controlled by Ivy League graduates, by just people who were friends with each other. And so they cheated. They became corrupt. Okay? They basically destroyed the American economy. And people protested against all of this. And Barack Obama promised that he would come in and do something about it. Okay? Well, he did do something about it. All right? So his economic team, he appointed quite a few individuals. These are the two most famous. Larry Summers, who was a Harvard graduate as well as a president of Harvard. And he was Treasury Secretary under Bill Clinton, and he was the guy who created the mess in the first place. And then Tim Geithner, who was a Dartmouth graduate, and he was the Treasury Secretary, okay? So these are friends of Wall Street who came in to save Wall Street. So a lot of critics say, it's Wall Street who created this mess, who destroyed the American economy. They should be punished, or at least they should feel some pain. If you just let them go and help them out and save them, then you create a problem called moral hazard. The idea of moral hazard is if you don't have any consequences for your mistake, you will do it again. Okay? And then Larry Summers said, no, you guys are seeing it incorrectly. We have to save the American economy. The goal is not to save the banks and my friends. The goal is to save the American people and the American economy, and that's why we're bailing out the banks by giving them free money. Okay? And then the critics were like, well, how about all these American homeowners who've lost their homes? Shouldn't we help them as well? And do you know what Larry Summers said? Moral hazard, guys. Do you understand? Moral hazard? If we help out these ordinary Americans, they won't learn anything. Okay? So, as you can see, people were angry. The banks got saved, the people got screwed over. And guess what, guys? Because of this, who did we get? This guy. Okay? This is why he won. There were millions of Americans who voted for Barack Obama because he promised hope and change. And then they voted for Donald Trump because he promised to destroy the system. Okay? That's why we have Donald Trump. Now, funny story about Donald Trump and Barack Obama. So Barack Obama and Donald Trump were always adversaries. In fact, Donald Trump led a movement which accused Barack Obama of not being born in America. He's born in America, but Donald Trump is saying, no, he was actually born in Nigeria. His father is from Nigeria. So Barack Obama made fun of Donald Trump. 2011, there's a big dinner, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where Barack Obama gets on stage and he makes fun of Donald Trump. Okay? He says, hey, if Donald Trump ever became president, this is what the White House would look like. It'd be a casino. Okay? And this is funny, right? Donald Trump was in the audience that day. And everyone was laughing at him. And that's what motivated Donald Trump to become president of the United States. Okay, so thank Obama for Donald Trump. Without Obama, there would be no Donald Trump. Okay, so it's not just Barack Obama. It's a lot of people in the American political class. They're just soulless robots, okay? This man is J.D. Vance. He's the vice president for Donald Trump. Like Barack Obama, he wrote a book, a bestseller called Hillbilly Elegy, and it's possible he becomes president of the United States as well. Now, you may not know this, but when he first came into prominence, he opposed Donald Trump. He thought that Donald Trump would be a fascist and be a dictator and all that. And then suddenly he changes his opinion and says, Donald Trump is the greatest guy in the world. Okay? So these guys, like J.D. Vance and Barack Obama, they have no ideas of their own. They're just puppets. They just tell people what they want to hear. All they know is achieve. Okay? So another example of this man's name is Johnny Kim. Okay? And he'll probably run for president of the United States one day, or at least be a U.S. senator. Why do I mention him? Guess what, guys? He was a Navy SEAL, which is the top position you can ever achieve in the military. He was a secret soldier, okay? He went to Harvard Medical School, became a doctor. Then he joined NASA, became an astronaut. This is like the ideal Ivy League graduate, okay? This is what Harvard wants. Now, why is he able to do all this? Well, because this is his Wikipedia entry, okay? In 2002, the police went into his house and killed his father. He was there and he saw the police killed his father. He was traumatized for life. His father was a domestic abuser. The father was violent, crazy, hit him all the time. Okay? So he has dissociative personality disorder. And in fact, if you look at most of these really successful people, they do have dissociative personality disorder. And that's why he was able to do all this, because he turned the trauma into an energy to drive him to greater and greater achievement. The problem, though, is he has no ideas of his own. He's just a puppet, guys, okay? So let's conclude and summarize why the meritocracy is so great. It creates this extreme inequality in America, okay? So it destroyed the school system because all people care about are their grades now, right? People don't even care about learning anymore. All they want are the grades. In fact, if you get a bad grade, you'll probably complain to the teacher. In which case, the teacher's now afraid to teach you because if the teacher tries to challenge you and make you a better student, you'll just complain, okay? And if you don't succeed, your parents will come and complain, okay? Traumatized children, okay? Okay? If you look at the rate of mental illness in China and America, it's just insane. Death of the American dream and social mobility, you're not gonna be richer than your parents, you're just not. Concentration of wealth, power, and status in the 1%. The richest just get richer. Political divide between left and right. Okay, so you have all these political divisions right now in America. Corruption. So Wall Street just steals and steals and steals, and no one can do anything about it. Destruction of American identity. Globalization, immigration, woke ideology. Okay. Incompetent and mismanagement. You look at COVID. You look at the fact that America now has $37 trillion in debt. An elite that is soulless, mediocre, and unimaginative. Okay, Barack Obama, J.D. Vance, this guy, Johnny Kim. Okay, they're just robots. Oh, and Donald Trump. Okay, so thank you, American meritocracy, for destroying the world.